Hello everybody and welcome back to Full House Sports here, myself Charlie. And before the video starts, please like, comment and subscribe. Anything you guys do is greatly appreciated as I try to become a one-man sports news bandwagon. Thursday, would you believe it? It is Thursday, is the start of the Six Nations, which is for, I think, European rugby fans, probably the peak of our year. I'm not going to lie. It is the time when it's like the Euros every year in rugby, and I don't need to explain it. I think if you know, you know. It's sort of one of them things. It's a fantastic competition. It renews old rivalries. It's broadcast on free-to-air TV. It feels like everyone, well, not everyone, but it feels like a lot of people become rugby fans, and that's fantastic as well, to have that sort of community vibe, whether that be in the pubs or whether that be, you know, just around in the chatter is more often than not about rugby in staff rooms and things like that, or workplaces, not just the usual footy chat or whatever else is going on. It is interesting that it's starting on Thursday. I think this is to do with the not clashing with the Winter Olympics, which I'm going to do a preview on myself. And yeah, I get it. My problem is that you still got to go work on the Friday. That's sort of my problem. Like I say, if you know, you know. And I get it because they don't want to clash. They don't want to potentially take viewership off. I just think it's quite bizarre, to be honest. But what an opening game it is, France-Ireland. I think this is going to be a really interesting competition. Now, I'm going to title this video my prediction because I have a prediction that I think maybe some people will scoff at, but I think is one that I could see feasibly coming true. I think this year might be Scotland's year. And people will scoff and say, yeah, well, they've been saying this the last few years. But I genuinely do. I genuinely think that this year, Scotland, with the players they've got, the form they're in, with the question marks as well around the other sides, I think that this could be Scotland's year. Now, I understand why people might go, no. And I do accept, I think France are definitely favourites. The difference with France, I mean, the strength in depth is shown, for example, by the fact that they've not even selected Penaud or Galficou or anyone else, you know, Greggy Aldrit. They're the three players alone. The fact they haven't selected them shows the strength in depth they have. They would walk into probably most of the other sides in the world, but they don't get in the French squad. And that's because of the strength, like I say, the quality of the team all around. Obviously, with Antoine Dupont being back, he's on a, I don't want to say he's on a revenge mission. I don't think it's a revenge mission, but we know what happened last year in the game against Ireland when he had that ligament damage done. He's going to want to come back with a vengeance. The pack that they've got is phenomenal. I think really another interesting thing that someone was saying on Twitter is this development of this 6-2 bench split, but it's a false 6-2. I don't want rugby to get too much like football because I think football's far too tactical and far too much technical terminology now. But the fact of the matter is that they're using, you know, players like Ben Earl, obviously France are, but they are using players that can play in the back row but also play in the centre potentially. And it's a really interesting development, I think, in rugby that's one to keep an eye on. Go back to France, though. Yes, obviously they're favourites. I expect them to beat Ireland. But I think for Scotland, it is a case of now or never. Finn Russell's 33, and for me, he's one of the best players in the world. He was outstanding on that Lions tour recently. It was one of the few players in my eyes that could come away from that tour with their head held high. Tuipulotu's back. Of course, he didn't play last year. Him and Hugh Jones in the midfield have been tearing it up for Glasgow. And perhaps I'm reading too much into Glasgow's form, but I do think that is a massive factor for me. You know, that Glasgow team has been doing unbelievable in Europe. They have nothing to fear. They should be going into this with the thought of, we can win this. We can beat anyone on their day. And I think with, like, say, Finn Russell, the maestro at fly half, with that centre pairing, I think they've got a real chance. Duhan van der Merwe on the wing, he's going to be really important for them. We know how important he can be with his finishing. The problems for me is that they do have a history, Scotland. I mean, the Autumn International showed it, of snatching defeat for the jaws of victory. They showed that in autumn. They should have beat New Zealand at Murrayfield, and they didn't. And I do worry a little bit about what they could do when they go against stuff. But their first three games are potentially quite... The England game isn't, but the Wales and Italy game means that, for me, they could start their competition in a really rich vein of form. The reason why I'm saying this is because I think, certainly for Ireland and England, there's problems at prop. Injuries have meant that the front row of both those sides has been decimated. Now, England have got enough strength and depth. I understand that. I think they're very good in the Autumn Internationals, England. I think they've firmly see themselves now as title contenders. They won that last day decider against France in Paris, and that would be a great occasion. I say that after saying I think Scotland will win it. But I just think there may be, I don't know, there's times at the minute I feel like with England where they just don't quite get over the line. And there's a lot of youth in that side. Potentially in the cauldron that is the Six Nations, could that combust spectacularly? I don't know. I just think that there's potential there. And Ireland as well. I keep saying it with Ireland. I feel like the era's coming to an end. And there's question marks over 10, Prendergast or Harry Byrne. There's a lot of pressure there. We know the forwards, things are going on there. Bundy Aki coming out of the squad. Hugo Keenan as well coming out of the squad. That's a huge miss. This is an injury hit Ireland. And for me, I think it's going to require a lot of patching up together for them to win this competition. The other two sides are worth mentioning. Italy, they seem to be getting stronger and stronger and stronger. In the Order of Internationals, that showed it. They beat Australia and they were competitive against South Africa. It's worth remembering that. They were very competitive. I know South Africa had a controversial sending off in that game, but they were in the game. The problem is going to be, I think, with Italy is the problem that we often see is it's the strength in depth and also it's the discipline that sometimes they lack. Against the contenders, they do often seem to come unstuck, and that is a problem that they've had for a few years now. And as for Wales, I think there's hope for Wales going into this. They'll be interested to see what happens in the England game, and then it's France straight after. So it's not the nicest of welcomes back for Wales. But Steve Tandy seems to have got a bit of a tune out of them. You can look at their points against South Africa, against New Zealand, against Argentina in autumn and scoff and laugh. But they did score points, and that for me is a building block. I think Nicky Smith said it the other week in an interview. You look at the players they've got playing in the Prem, and it's a real surprise that they're not doing much better than they are. Potentially that could start in this tournament. They'll be looking to cause a few upsets, especially on Saturday. Just quickly, a few other talk points about it. I think, obviously, this is going to factor in the new Nations Championship. That'll be interesting to see how that develops. I don't think it'll really matter in the context of the Six Nations. The shorter schedule as well, teams will have to use more players. Let's be realistic. And that's where maybe my prediction of Scotland could come unstuck and where France will come into their own, because that squad depth that they've got, I keep emphasising it, is so, so important. They can rotate and they lose very little. Like I say, it could come down, for me, to Scotland and France. But England will be there, and then I think it will be Ireland. My final prediction, let's get that in order. My final prediction, I'm going to say Scotland in first, because people will laugh, but I'm going to say it. I think this could be their year. France second, England third, Ireland fourth, Wales fifth, Italy with a wooden spoon. That's my final prediction. But let's know what you guys think. You probably are laughing your heads off at me saying Scotland could win a Six Nations. I probably will end up with an egg on my face. Let's know what you think. As always, guys, please like, comment and subscribe. I've been Charlie from Full House Sports, trying to become a one-man sports news bandwagon. As always, have a great day.